Hi, my name is Randy Garner with Full Throttle Sales and Performance Coaching. I want to thank you for taking just a few minutes of your time to view this video. I'm going to try to keep this brief. This is typically about a 30-minute conversation that I share with others, and I just wanted to give you a brief overview. I specialize in helping clients with their onboarding and hiring process, and I specialize in helping clients with their sales skills development. Today, I'm going to talk about the hiring process and how important having assessments to understand learning index, to understand candidness or integrity, and to understand the pace at which individuals will work for in an organization. We're trying to help you find better candidate fit for a specific assignment that you may have. Everything I'm going to cover with you today is based on over 40 years of science and over 40 years of data. And I think you'll be really pleased with what we have to offer for you. My mantra is to always provide actionable information. So anything I provide for you is going to give you, you can put it into play and you can do something with it. And it's going to be something that's going to help improve your profitability and your effectiveness in many ways. So I'd like you to think about a couple of questions here. First of all, if you own the business or you are a top leader in your organization, I want you to think about how much time you spend trying to determine candidate fit for your organization in any number of different jobs that you may have posted or in the future being posted. And then think about also how many managers or leaders do you involve in that process? And what's that cost? What's that hourly cost to have people involved not only in the phone conversations and in the face-to-face interviews, but the meetings that take place after that to discuss whether or not we feel like we've got the right candidate for the position. And then really when you think about that, you start to wonder, well, how do you really determine whether or not that candidate is the right fit for the position? How do you determine it, and when does it happen inside of the process? A lot of times, in my experience, that comes down to a gut instinct decision. And in the past, that was how we always did things. And the fact is, you end up with a 50-50 shot. There's a better way to do this, and it's going to be a low-cost, easy-to-implement way of doing it that's going to not only help you determine the right fit, but it's going to help give you interview questions to determine the right fit and to understand some of the gaps that you may see. Speaking of gaps, if you're interested in continually developing your employees, then this is a perfect opportunity for you to understand more about your employees, whether they be in the seat today or whether they be the ones that you bring on in the future. So let's talk about this real quick. We've all been there. We've all hired somebody that is probably a really good person and probably a really good person for another position, just not the right person for the position that we've hired. You know, hopefully that hasn't happened often, because if it has, it can be very costly to your organization. So let's talk about how costly it can be. You probably know this, but I'm going to give you some statistics. The U.S. Department of Labor tells us that it's going to cost you 30%, minimum 30% of the first year salary for hiring a bad candidate. You probably know from your experience it costs more than that. In fact, when you look at the Society for Human Resource Management, they look at much more than just the salary and the cost of the salary, which is what the U.S. Department of Labor is looking at. What they say is it's going to cost you more than 5 times that salary. Now, 5 times sounds like a lot, and it should sound like a lot. Let's talk about how we get to that 5 times. Think about this. When you bring in a candidate, you're going to have a lower productivity in that specific assignment. The fact is, you're going to have a lower productivity in that team of people around that assignment for obvious reasons. They're helping bring that candidate on board. They're giving their attention to that candidate. The productivity of that team will suffer, and here's the problem with that. If you've got a bad candidate in the position, what kind of damage might they be doing to your reputation? So whether it be with client interaction that can do damage to your reputation, or whether it be something as simple as them never updating their LinkedIn profile and still having their previous job on their LinkedIn profile, or having a competitor that they used to work for on their LinkedIn profile. These are areas that you may not be able to quantify, but you know that they can cost you money. And then when you look at this, it's going to be approximately 23 days. 23 days to onboard somebody. So that's going to be whether it's a good candidate or a bad candidate. But the fact is, how often do you have to go through that cycle to get the right candidate? Any of the companies that have been surveyed 41% of them tell us it's going to cost more than $25,000 for a new hire. So you can't really afford to do that too many times with a bad hire. And we're going to help you remedy that. So last piece here is you're putting your good employees at risk when you bring in a toxic employee. Whether it's bringing in that toxic employee from as a team member that works with them that will put higher stress on them, or whether it's bringing in a manager that's managing them and really not managing them correctly and creating more stress. So the bottom line here is a bad hire really has challenges that are going to echo long after they're gone throughout your organization. So it's not all doom and gloom. I'm not a doom and gloom kind of a guy. I like to really give you the good side too. So we can help you. And everywhere you see one of these, this is going to show you where we can help you specifically. So you obviously have to have a nice, thorough job description written out. This helps us understand the competencies that are going to be involved in a specific assignment. Outside of that, there should be testing that's being done for the applicant. Some of the testing you're probably already doing, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but some of the testing you may not be doing, and that's really what we want to talk about today. Something that helps you measure the ability to do the job. So you're measuring their learning index. You're measuring the pace at which they work. You're measuring the candidness or the integrity based on how they answer specific questions that we ask them in different ways throughout the course of the assessment. We're going to help you measure their drive and ability to do it, and really the fit for that specific job, which we'll talk about here in just a second. One of the things I've seen the biggest opportunity for in my experience with a lot of business, even in the corporate environment, this is a challenge, is the consistently well-structured interview questions. It's one of the reasons I opened up my own company. I have expertise in helping with interview questions that are behavioral questions. By the way, I could put another one of these right next to check references. You're probably already doing that, but are you asking those same type of behavioral interview questions to the references so that you try to draw out the same information and see if it matches up to what the candidate's telling you? Now, one of the biggest things that I personally have experienced is the onboarding process. I know for me, if I'm going to go out and work for another company, I want to work for a company that has a good process in place, a company that shows me that they're not just doing it off the cuff. They're not just trying to wing it. I want somebody that has some insight into me and what makes me tick. And I want somebody that has well-structured questions that might be based off of the way I answered questions in this assessment, and not just questions that I've heard 100 times and I can almost rehearse how I would answer some of those questions. In fact, if I run into that, I would just walk away because that's not the kind of company I want to work for. So what I mean by that is you can help attract better talent by having a good process in place. And then obviously this information gives us the ability to design continual development, another area I can help you out with. So let's talk about the typical process. Everybody understands and knows this, so I won't spend too much time on it. But the typical process, you've got the resume and you've got the background check. You need to do that. And understand this, though. The resume is something that people can get help with, and people can write an outstanding resume or have one written for them. They're only going to show you what they want you to see. They're not going to show you things that they don't want you to see. And then when you look at the interview process, again, something that needs to take place. But the question becomes, do we really understand how they're going to fit into an organization through an interview process? Or are we going off of our gut instinct determination on that? And it's really just looking at how they answer the questions today. So the piece that's missing, the 90%, the under the iceberg piece that's under the water, is the future. A glimpse into the future with some predictive information that can be gained through the assessments we're talking about. So we're talking about defining the characteristics for a specific job. Now, good news is we can do this two ways. One way is we've already done this thousands and thousands of times. In our thousands and thousands of different job pattern matching that we've done, we've come up with skill sets that we understand are traits and characteristics for successful high performers in 120 different job patterns. The fact is we have even more than 120 because we can take job patterns and combine them. If I have a data entry personnel, that's a job pattern. If I have a finance data entry personnel, those two can be combined. I can take a finance job pattern and a data entry job pattern and combine those because they're not just data entry, and they're not just finance. So we've got those built out. Another way we can do this is we can do it internally for you. Once we do that internally for you, we just look to compare the job fit. Here's how that works. You've got probably not this many people doing a specific job, but maybe you do. We've got thousands of people that we've already identified doing a specific job. What we do is we look for the high performers. We identify who those high performers are. We provide them this same assessment, and then we understand the key metrics that we're looking for to compare when we go to make a hire.